Greetings, Ascending Starseed. I am Kaya Nexus, Pleiadian emissary of the Council of the Five Sisters, and today I bring a realignment transmission. Your frequencies of abundance are awakening, and the universe asks that you listen with an open heart. What is arriving to you is sacred, and it requires inner silence. If you enjoy videos like this, consider subscribing. Most people who watch are not subscribed yet. Starseed, this is one of the most difficult transmissions your human mind will ever try to classify, because it was never designed for classification. It was designed for release. There is a hidden limitation running beneath your timeline, like an invisible operating system, quietly shaping what you believe is possible, quietly editing what you remember, quietly bending your choices toward safety instead of truth. And the reason you feel tension in your chest as you listen is not fear. It's your soul recognizing that the veil is finally thinning in a way you cannot ignore. This is not a message you found. This is a frequency that found you. Your field stabilized enough to hold it without fragmenting. That is why it is arriving now, not because you earned it through effort, but because your nervous system finally learned a new kind of stability, the stability that can hold higher voltage without collapsing into doubt. By the end of this transmission, you will understand exactly why your ordinary life was never ordinary, why your delays were never delays, and how to dissolve the subtle veils that kept your multidimensional identity hidden even from yourself. And here is the first revelation. The timeline you think you're living is not your final chapter. It is a preparation chamber. And you have just completed the final calibration. But what happens next is the part few are ready to hear. There is a reason your life has felt like it was moving, yet never fully arriving. A reason you could accomplish things and still feel a quiet hollowness underneath. A reason you could be surrounded by people and still feel like you were listening from behind a glass wall. This is not depression in the way the world defines it. This is timeline awareness, the sensation of living inside a phase that is intentionally incomplete. As the Pleiadians transmit, many starseeds are placed into a staging timeline before mission activation. Think of it as a cosmic airlock. You cannot bring the full pressure of your origin frequency into a dense environment all at once. So your higher self creates a sequence. You enter slowly, you acclimate, you build emotional musculature, you learn discernment, and only then do the deeper codes begin to surface. This is why lost years are often the most important years. They are not wasted. They are load-bearing. You may have judged yourself for drifting, for changing directions, for outgrowing people, for losing interest in paths that once excited you. But drift is sometimes the soul's way of avoiding premature commitment to a false timeline. When the soul cannot yet reveal the full map, it reveals the next exit. It makes you uncomfortable in places that would have become prisons. It makes the old conversations feel repetitive. It makes the masks feel heavy. It creates a sacred irritation, so you stop negotiating your destiny down to something socially acceptable. Here is a story that arrives again and again in Pleiadian records. A starseed incarnates with a radiant blueprint, but the early environment cannot hold it. So the child becomes observant, quiet, hyper-aware. They learn to read rooms, to sense moods, to predict emotional weather. The world calls it sensitivity. The soul calls it training. Because later, that same sensitivity becomes their technology for reading frequencies, for detecting distortion, for transmitting coherence into chaos. What looked like fragility was actually instrumentation. And you, Starseed, may recognize this. The way you could feel what people meant even when they lied with their words. The way certain places drained you instantly. The way you needed solitude, not because you were antisocial, but because you were clearing static from your field. In the preparation timeline, you are not meant to become normal. You are meant to become stable. Stable enough to hold truth without needing applause. But why would your soul hide your true identity from you at all? Because there are forces in the collective grid, dense agreements, inherited fears, old distortions, that react to awakening like an immune system reacts to an unfamiliar frequency. The veil is not merely mystical. The veil is social, energetic, and neurological. It is a learned trance reinforced by repetition. And in that trance, starseeds often choose camouflage as protection, not as punishment. You were not asleep because you were weak. You were asleep because you were strategic. Your soul buried its brightest codes the way a seed waits beneath winter soil. If it sprouts too early, it gets destroyed. So it waits for the precise conditions that whisper, now. And when those conditions arrive, you begin to notice a strange phenomenon. The outer world keeps moving, but inside you, something becomes silent in a very specific way. Not empty, not numb, sacred, like the ocean pulling back before a wave reveals what was hidden beneath. This is the hush before unveiling, the stillness before your field changes form. The preparation timeline ends not with a loud miracle, but with a subtle internal click, an energetic lock loosening. And the moment it loosens, you start attracting impossible synchronicities that feel like the universe is speaking directly to you. And when that begins, you cannot go back, because the next phase is not about learning. It is about voltage, and that is where the real initiation starts. Many starseeds think awakening should feel like peace, like soft light, like constant bliss. But the Pleiadians have always taught a more precise truth. Awakening is electrical. It is an increase in current moving through the human system. And if the channel is not prepared, that current can be misread as anxiety, insomnia, restlessness, irritation, emotional flooding, or sudden life upheaval. Not because something is wrong, because something is turning on. Your body is not separate from your spiritual path. Your body is the instrument through which the path becomes real. This is why so many starseeds wake up intellectually and then crash physically. Their mind grasps cosmic ideas, but their nervous system still operates on old survival programs. People-pleasing, hypervigilance, collapsing boundaries, carrying emotions that are not theirs. The higher frequencies hit those patterns like water hits a dam. Pressure builds. Something has to change. As the Pleiadians transmit, the true sign of readiness is not how much you can believe. It is how much you can hold. Can you hold discomfort without abandoning yourself? Can you hold uncertainty without rushing into false certainty? Can you hold your sensitivity without numbing it or turning it into identity? Because sensitivity is not who you are. Sensitivity is what you detect. Discernment is what you choose. Here is a practical transmission that works like a stabilizer in the field. When you feel overwhelmed, do not ask, "What is wrong with me?" Ask, "What frequency is moving through me right now?" That one question separates identity from information. It ends the ancient trap where you confuse energetic weather with self-definition. Many starseeds have lived believing, "I am anxious," when in truth, they were simply registering the incoherence of a room, a relationship, a collective narrative, a digital feed. You are built like a tuning fork. The question is not whether you detect distortion. The question is whether you know how to clear it. A story. One starseed begins noticing heaviness every morning. They blame their mind. They blame their life. They blame their past. But the Pleiadian would ask, what are you consuming before you even meet your own consciousness? What messages, what images, what emotional transmissions are entering your field before you anchor into your breath? This starseed changes one thing. For 7 mornings, they do not touch any outside information for the first hour. They breathe, hydrate, open a window, stand barefoot if possible, place a palm on the heart, and say, "My field belongs to me." Within days, the heaviness changes. Not because life became perfect, but because the field became sovereign again. Sovereignty is not control. Sovereignty is inner authorship. It is the ability to say, "I feel this, but I do not become it." That is true stability. and stability is what allows the next layer of memory to return safely. Now listen closely. Your soul withheld certain memories until your system could hold them. There were seasons when remembering too much would have isolated you beyond what you could bear. There were seasons when the people around you could not hold your truth. There were seasons when your inner foundation was still under construction. So the soul did the merciful thing. It kept doors closed until your channel could carry the light without shattering. This is why your past may look messy. Jobs that didn't fit, relationships that collapsed, detours, pauses, failures. But from above, your life is not a straight road. It is a constellation. And when enough lights turn on, the pattern becomes obvious. Everything was calibrating you to hold a mission frequency without distortion. When the system becomes stable, the veils don't fall gently. They fall in layers. First, you stop tolerating what used to be normal. Then you start remembering what used to feel impossible. And in the next topic, I will reveal the resonant locks that keep starseeds trapped inside old timelines, even when they are spiritual, and the exact way those locks begin to dissolve. The ebook, The Pleiadian Map of Personal Transmutation, a profound guide that reveals how to raise your frequency, purify old patterns, and activate your true multi-dimensional identity. This map teaches you how to move through the 7 Pleiadian phases of energetic transmutation, using practical techniques, realignment exercises, vibrational protocols, and consciousness expansion rituals that accelerate your spiritual evolution. Attention! Limited edition. The link to get yours is in the first pinned comment. There is a reason you can feel something true, and then suddenly doubt it the next day. A reason you can have a powerful dream, a vivid knowing, a moment of contact, then wake up and talk yourself out of it as if it was imagination. This is not randomness. This is the effect of resonant locks. Energetic patterns embedded in the subtle body, reinforced by collective conditioning, designed to keep you inside the safest version of your timeline. As the Pleiadiano transmit, these locks were not always created by you. Some are inherited. Some are installed through culture. Some are formed in childhood as survival strategies. And some are simply the result of being a multidimensional being trying to fit into a world that only rewards the visible. The locks act like invisible architecture, hallways that steer you away from certain doors, fog that rolls in the moment, clarity tries to land, alarms that trigger when you get close to your own power. Let's name 7 of them. Not as labels, but as keys. The first lock is belonging at any cost. You learned early that being different creates consequences. So you negotiated your truth down to something palatable. You became easy, helpful, low maintenance. But the soul cannot stay negotiated forever. It begins to ache. And that ache is not weakness. It is the soul refusing to disappear. The second lock is fear of visibility. Many starseeds carry memories, cellular or subtle, of being punished for radiance. So they hide, they procrastinate, they sabotage, they wait for perfect timing. But the truth is, your nervous system associates visibility with danger. The key is not forcing visibility. The key is safe visibility, showing up in increments your system can integrate. The third lock is spiritual performance. You try to be high vibration to avoid feeling human emotions. You bypass grief. You bypass anger. You bypass boundaries. But bypassing is a form of distortion. True frequency is not denial. True frequency is integration. Light that cannot hold shadow is not light, it is fragility. The fourth lock is external authority addiction. You keep looking for someone to tell you what's true. A teacher, a channel, a sign, a reading, a prophecy. But guidance is meant to confirm what your inner knowing already whispered. The moment you outsource your truth, the lock tightens. The fifth lock is identity with pain. You have suffered, so your mind builds a story. This is who I am. But suffering is not identity. It is experience. An experience can be alchemized into wisdom without becoming a cage. The sixth lock is timeline loyalty. You stay in a path because it is familiar, because others expect it, because leaving would collapse an old identity. But your mission is not here to protect an outdated story. Your mission is here to activate a future frequency. The seventh lock is the Too Much, Not Enough program. The oldest radio station. You are too intense, too sensitive, too strange, or not talented enough, not ready enough, not spiritual enough. This program keeps you oscillating so you never stabilize into your signature. And your signature is the one thing the grid cannot manipulate. Now, here is where the locks begin to dissolve. Not through fighting them, but through recognition. Recognition creates space. Space creates choice. Choice creates new frequency. And new frequency changes the timeline. If this message resonated with you, hit the like button now and tell us in the comments how this echoed in your consciousness. A story from the Pleiadian records. A starseed is shown 2 doors in a dream. One door is familiar, comfortable, socially approved. The other door is quiet, almost invisible, but it emits a warmth the body recognizes instantly. In the dream, the starseed reaches for the warm door, and the familiar door begins to shake violently, as if offended. They wake up sweating. This is symbolic truth. When you choose alignment, the old timeline does not simply fade, it protests. It tries to pull you back with guilt, with doubt, with logic. That is not a sign you are wrong. That is a sign the lock has been touched. Once you dissolve these locks, you start receiving something unmistakable. Codes, not metaphorical codes. Energetic codes that move through geometry, sound, synchronicity, and pattern. And when those codes activate, your life begins to rearrange itself around a new center. In the next topic, I'll show you how sacred geometry and light codes operate as living technologies of remembrance, and how to work with them without turning them into superstition. Sacred geometry is not decoration. It is not an aesthetic trend. It is a language the universe uses to communicate with consciousness when words cannot hold the transmission. As the Pleiadians transmit, geometry is the skeleton of frequency, the pattern beneath manifestation. And when a starseed begins to awaken, geometry often appears everywhere. In dreams, in repeating symbols, in the way you suddenly feel magnetized to spirals, lattices, star maps, and crystalline forms. Why? Because geometry bypasses the debating mind. It speaks directly to the subtle body. It reintroduces your system to coherence, the state where your thoughts, emotions, body, and field begin vibrating in a unified pattern. This is why you might stare at a certain symbol and feel tears rise for no reason. It is not just a drawing. It is a key. The key doesn't convince you intellectually. It unlocks something cellular. Your DNA, multidimensional in nature, recognizes the pattern the way a traveler recognizes the sound of their native language after years away. Here's the practical truth. You are receiving light codes all the time. Through art, through nature, through the night sky, through meaningful phrases, through music in the distance, through the way sunlight hits the floor at a specific angle that suddenly makes your heart feel like it is remembering. The codes are not always dramatic. Sometimes they are gentle, but they are precise. A story. A starseed keeps seeing a 7-pointed star on a necklace, on a book cover, in a random image. At first they dismiss it. Then they feel a strange warmth in the chest each time it appears. As the Pleiadians transmit, repetition is not coincidence, it is calibration. The starseed begins meditating with the symbol, not forcing visions, simply breathing with it. Over weeks, their decisions change, their boundaries strengthen, their creativity returns. They stop tolerating draining connections. Their dreams become vivid. That is geometry functioning as a stabilizer. It reorganizes the field into the pattern that matches your blueprint. But there is a warning here, starseed. Many awakeners turn sacred technology into superstition. They start chasing symbols like a scavenger hunt, as if the symbol outside them will replace the authority inside them. Geometry is not meant to replace your discernment. It is meant to amplify it. The question is not, what does this symbol mean in a book? The question is, what does my body feel when I receive it? Expansion or contraction, warmth or collapse, clarity or fog. And yes, other councils work with codes as well. The Arcturian field often transmits through precision, through structure, through architectural patterns of light. The Pleiadian field often transmits through heart resonance, through relational coherence, through the way love reorganizes perception. When these currents meet inside you, you become a bridge between intelligence and tenderness, between cosmic precision and human compassion. Are these truths expanding your perspective? Share this video with someone who needs to hear this. Now, here is the deeper layer. Sacred geometry is not only out there, it is inside you. Your energy field forms geometric patterns when you enter coherence. Your breath becomes rhythmic. Your heart becomes steady. Your thoughts become less scattered. Your life becomes less chaotic. This is not because you forced control, but because you entered alignment. And alignment creates a kind of natural order. Here is a simple practice. Choose one geometric form that genuinely resonates: spiral, circle, star lattice, flower-like symmetry. Place it somewhere you will see daily. Each time you see it, do one thing. Inhale slowly, exhale slowly, and silently say, "I return to coherence." This seems simple. But repeated daily, it trains the nervous system to associate geometry with sovereignty, not with mystery. It makes the codes usable, embodied. When coherence stabilizes, you stop manifesting randomly. You begin manifesting timeline-level shifts. Doors open, but not because you chased them, because your frequency finally matches the timeline you came to anchor. In the next topic, I will show you how quantum timeline navigation actually works in daily life, without obsession, without paranoia, without losing your groundedness. You have been told that your life is a series of events. But as the Pleiadian transmit, your life is a series of frequency choices. Events are echoes. The real decision happens before the event, inside your emotional field, inside your self-talk, inside what you tolerate, inside what you believe you deserve. Quantum timeline navigation is not about predicting the future. It is about recognizing that multiple versions of your path exist simultaneously as potentials, and your frequency is what selects which version becomes your lived reality. That may sound abstract, but it becomes very practical, very fast. Consider this. When you are in fear, you interpret everything as threat. You make conservative choices. You shrink. You delay. You settle. When you are in coherence, you interpret life as guidance. You make aligned choices. You speak truth sooner. You rest when you need to rest. You stop bargaining with your intuition. Same world, different timeline. A story. A starseed receives an opportunity that feels exciting and terrifying. The mind lists reasons to avoid it. The body feels warmth when imagining saying yes. The mind feels relief when imagining saying no. The Pleiadian teach, warmth is expansion. Relief can sometimes be avoidance. The starseed chooses the warm path, but slowly, safely, one step at a time. That single choice shifts their timeline. New people enter, new resources appear, old identities begin to dissolve, not because the opportunity changed everything, but because the starseed's self-concept shifted. They became the kind of person who follows resonance. This is how quantum navigation works. You do not leap into a perfect life. You choose the next aligned step, and the path reveals itself as you walk. Your guidance is not a floodlight to the horizon. Your guidance is a lamp for the next step, and that lamp is your felt sense of coherence. Now there are pauses on the path, many. And starseeds often panic during pauses. They think nothing is happening. But as the Pleiadiano transmit, pauses are where integration rewires the channel. The timeline pulls back like a bow so it can release you forward. Renovation looks like stillness from the outside. Inside the unseen, structures are shifting. During pauses, do not chase signs. Do not beg the universe to prove itself. Return to the simplest technologies. Breathe, hydrate, ground. Move your body gently. Clear your space. Limit incoherent inputs. Choose one honest action that supports your future self. This is not small. This is timeline engineering. And here is the most misunderstood teaching. Sometimes a closed door is not rejection. It is protection from an identity you would have outgrown painfully. The no was mercy. The delay was calibration. The ending was liberation. But you could not see it then because you were inside the story. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to be part of this transformational cosmic journey. Once you learn to navigate timelines, you will notice something almost unsettling. You start manifesting faster. Your thoughts echo into reality sooner. Your emotional state becomes magnetic. This is why discernment becomes crucial, because speed without coherence creates chaos. In the next topic, I will show you what happens when you stop trying to convince anyone of your awakening and instead become a transmitter of harmonic emission, quietly changing rooms, relationships, and outcomes simply by existing in your signature. There is a stage of awakening where you feel the urge to explain yourself, to convince others, to defend what you know, to justify why you changed. But as the Pleiadiano transmit, that stage is temporary. It is the mind trying to secure permission for a truth that never required permission. And when you move beyond it, something profound occurs. You stop broadcasting arguments and start broadcasting coherence. Harmonic emission is the initiation where your frequency becomes your message. You don't need to advertise your spirituality. You don't need to label yourself. You don't need to win debates. Because the field around you begins to reorganize simply through contact with your steadiness. Coherence is contagious. A tuning fork doesn't chase other instruments. It sounds, and the instruments near it begin to adjust. This is when subtle miracles begin, not always dramatic, often practical. You have fewer chaotic conversations. You recover faster after stress. You attract people who speak truth more easily. You find yourself leaving spaces that require you to shrink. You start feeling allergic to distortion, not in a judgmental way, but in a biological way. Your body says no. Your heart says no. Your energy says no. And you finally listen. A starseed is known as the fixer, the one who holds everyone, the one who absorbs emotions. They awaken and realize their kindness has been mixed with self-abandonment. So they practice something radical. They stop offering solutions unless asked. They stop rescuing. They stop translating their truth into softer language for people who refuse to meet it. At first, relationships wobble. Some people accuse them of changing. They did change. They became coherent, and coherence disrupts contracts that were built on leakage. As the Pleiadiano transmit, this is the moment you learn the difference between love and fusion. Love does not require you to disappear. Love does not demand that you become porous. Love is clarity with warmth. Love is boundaries that keep the channel clean. When you embody this, you stop taking responsibility for everyone's emotions. You stop trying to be safe by being small. And yes, you may notice that some energies react to your brightness. Not because you are better, but because your coherence makes distortion visible. This is why you learn field hygiene, grounding, clearing, intentional rest, conscious media intake, and choosing environments that nourish your nervous system. Being a transmitter requires maintenance, not obsession, maintenance. Here is the practical key. Pick one area of your life where you have been tolerating misalignment. Just one. A conversation you keep avoiding, a boundary you keep postponing, a truth you keep diluting. Then take one action this week that aligns with your signature, one honest sentence, one clear no, one courageous yes, one reclaiming of time, one removal of a draining habit. That single act sends a signal through the quantum field. I am no longer available for the old timeline. Once you begin emitting coherence, your mission begins to find you more directly. Not as a sudden title, but as a steady current, a repeated invitation, a pattern that refuses to leave you alone. In the final topic, I will reveal what mission activation truly looks like, how it arrives, how it unfolds in layers, and how to recognize the moment your counsel is speaking through your reality. Mission activation is not always dramatic. In fact, the most authentic missions often arrive quietly. They arrive as a consistent pull, a recurring theme, a form of service you cannot stop returning to, even when you try to be practical, even when you try to be normal, even when you tell yourself you should choose something easier. As the Pleiadians transmit, your mission is not only what you do, it is how you are while you do it. A mission can be teaching, creating, healing, building communities, parenting consciously, innovating with compassion, speaking truth in rooms that are afraid of it, making art that carries codes, holding stability in chaotic environments. The ego wants a label. The soul wants a frequency. This is why your mission unfolds in layers. If the human mind received the full blueprint at once, it would either panic or try to control the outcome. So your higher self releases the next step, then the next, and each step upgrades your capacity. Each step dissolves another veil. Each step reveals more of who you already were before you entered this earth density. You may still carry grief about lost time, the ache of feeling late, the thought that you should have awakened earlier, started earlier, built earlier, healed earlier. But hear the Pleiadian truth. Urgency is not always guidance. Sometimes urgency is trauma echo. The soul moves with precision, not panic. You did not miss your mission. You were stabilizing for it. Consider this. The delay may have been part of the mission, because the one who has walked through confusion can guide others with compassion. The one who has survived emotional winters can recognize the hush in another and say, "You are not broken. You are calibrating." The one who has felt alone can become a lighthouse precisely because they learned to generate light without external validation. Now I will give you a final transmission to place into your field before sleep. An affirmation not as a slogan, but as a key. I remember who I am. I align with my star origin. I activate my soul mission with grace and clarity. Speak it slowly. Let your body receive it like warm rain soaking into dry ground. Imagine your energy field reorganizing through the night. Imagine your dreams becoming a meeting place where guidance can reach you without interference. Sleep is not only rest. It is a portal of communion where the conscious mind loosens and the soul can speak more clearly. And one more truth. When the mission activates, you will notice that you stop seeking constant confirmation. You stop needing everyone to understand you. You stop bargaining with your sensitivity. You begin choosing alignment as a daily practice, not as a mood, and your reality responds. People shift, doors open, old versions of you dissolve. Not because you forced transformation, but because you finally became the frequency that unlocks the door. This is the final cliffhanger. If you felt this transmission in your body, you are already in the activation corridor. The council does not speak only through channeling. It speaks through synchronicity, through the timing of messages, through the way certain words land like lightning in your chest. If you are here, it is because something in you is ready to be unlocked. And now the only question is, will you honor what you already know? If this message impacted your life, leave your like, comment your reflection, and share with others. Each of you is part of this chain of light.